welcome to episode 16 of Living Truthfully. I'm so excited that you're still with me on this journey. Now, your feedback is crazy, man, and I can't wait to hear what you think of this episode today when I continue the conversation with Michael Oyier. So you've got to give me feedback on @AmaniMaranga, on Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And I have to invite you to something. On the 6th of April, I will be speaking at Engage 24, and so you've got to check it out, buy your tickets, and walk with me on this journey of living truthfully. So last week, I started a conversation with Mr. Michael Oyier, and we had this catch-up where we spoke about everything that was life, everything that was decisions that we're making, everything that is forgiveness. And now, we're going to a second part of this conversation, of this catch-up, where I ask him questions about the decisions that we have been making about as men, and especially based on the last two conversations that we had on why men get married and why they have remained to remain single. So pull your seats closer, get your cup of tea. So here goes, seconds away, round 2. Now I have to say, these conversations contain mature themes and listener discretion is advised. I wanted to dig into some conversations that we've had. Two in particular. We did a three-part series called Why Do Men Get Married? But I've just finished a 3-part series as well of Why Are You Still Single? And I realized that, there are very similar considerations in that space. Because, the decision, I guess the point you're making that decision, you're either making a decision to get married or to not get married. So first I want to ask you, and you can share from your experiences as a psychologist, from your knowledge base, from anywhere you choose. Why do you think men get married?
I don't know. and I say I don't know because you've asked men. Now, I think every individual is so unique, uniquely put together through their experiences, through the knowledge that they have, through the aspirations that they hold up to. And all these factors come together to inform also such a critical decision. I'm sure in the earlier podcasts you've had different reasons. Some are just societal. And it's, what society do you ascribe to? What society do you want to impress? What society do you want to keep being part of? And therefore it informs your decision to or not to get married. For example, some men get married for business. It makes much better business sense. You're much more accepted in the business circle when you're a man who has a wife.
True.
It doesn't matter what else you do, but that you can say you have a wife, then business works well for you. In the traditional setup, you are a boy until and unless you're married. So if you ascribe to the traditional acceptance, then there is a pressure to become a man. And it happens through getting married, rites of passage. So do I know why men get married? Why different men get married? Definitely not. The possibilities are many. Coming to the biblical perspective, marriage is, quite frankly, not for everyone. And marriage requires a grace and an aptitude that doesn't seem to be altogether easy to live with and vastly available. It's easy to get past the wedding. And I'm tempted to think that because our society has become more and more focused on self, then grace and this aptitude is decreasing, because you become the center of your universe. But in the essence of marriage, you are actually not entirely putting yourself aside, but you're allowing another individual to come in, and you are making commitments to that individual not on the basis of reciprocity. It is your choice to make commitments to that person which you will stick to whether or not they do their part.
And folks, that is how I'm not getting married. Again, okay, I'm joking. I pray that, God gives me the right aptitude at the time. I found that the reasons that most men, not all, but most of the men who we spoke to got married were very practical reasons. I've not interviewed any ladies in the podcast, but I find that their reasons are sometimes, they're different from the practical reasons that the men have. There's a lot more emotion attached to it. There's, there's softer reasons. Is there, from a psychologist's standpoint, is there a way to explain those differences?
The male disposition is different from the female disposition. And this we see sometimes when you see the way you relate with your children vis-a-vis the way the mother of the children might relate with them. And there are different things that children know they can get from the different parents. As hard as you try, you shall not be able to give your child that comfort that comes from the bosom of a mother. Just the hold and hug of a mother is different from the hold and hug of a father.
I agree.
Now, if we cut down that to the different reasons that inform getting married, then yes. And some of them have been vilified for men. And, you say men get married because they want children. I mean, women get married because they want children also. So there's a point of meeting in some of these various different aspirations. Women get married because they want companionship, maybe in different forms and shapes, but both parties want companionship. So then, though we have men who are very good at, homekeeping, they do a fabulous job. Whilst they have a strength in that one hand, there might be an area where they're not as capable. And many times when we're going out looking for a mate, we find someone who ends up complementing to a measure or the other. So the man who is very good at homekeeping might not necessarily look for someone with whom they're going to compete in homekeeping, and vice versa. It just happens that through the way, at least in a Kenyan context, we've been raised, many more men grow up with an expectation of a woman who cooks, cleans, irons, and I can see the spears and swords coming at me. But we grow up with that expectation, or at least the hope of that.
But it's what we saw our mothers do, it's what we saw our grandparents do. So, I mean, you're right, it's from our societal expectations. But it's not even so far what is stated, but it's also what we've seen and experienced. And is there anything wrong with that?
Is there? And I think the wrong thing would gain validation if you're expecting that from a woman who you want to have as your wife who does not share that expectation, which would mean in the first place you should remain good friends.
I found that some of the men I spoke to felt a sense of compulsion when getting married or to get married. For me, it was, I had a child on the way. Actually, we got married after the child came, but the child was a sense of compulsion. And for me, I've explained it here before. I didn't want my child to grow up without a father. I'd already experienced that for the early part of my childhood. And so, connecting the dots, that sort of made me want to do the right thing, which was noble, but I guess the wrong foundation for that marriage. For others has been church and has been different spaces that they're in that sort of nudge them in a certain way, and they find that they're not making this decision as a function of a choice they want to make, but as a function of the circumstances that they're in. What would you tell someone like that who feels, a sense of compulsion, especially as a guy? Because I don't know if it's the same for women. I really don't know. I wish I really could study the women's brain. But, I don't know if it's the same, but I feel like when I'm compelled to do something, I have no choice but to. I don't feel like I can get out of it. What do you?
First, I think we always have a choice. It's just at that point, how heavy are the consequences of whichever choice we make, assuming there are two options, to marry or not to marry. And what level of maturity have I reached to be able to clearly put aside the matters at hand? Yes, there is a child. Yes, there is my desire and aspiration. And then there is a woman to decide whether to marry or not. Now, the clearer I can see all three for what they are, and then make a choice that satisfies the truth that I have within me, that God has placed within me, the better. So when we are compelled, or when we say we're compelled, who is compelling? Then we can say church, society, the born, unborn child. The child is so young. How are they compelling? And then comes the reality of a choice once made comes with its next consequence. Now, can you live with that? And in some cases, it's making the choice of till death do us part. Now, everything that comes with that then means that whether your choice at that point was informed soundly or not soundly, or compelled by, we say someone else made me, whether or not, I made a choice. And now I need to make another choice, knowing that I made the choice and I was blaming everyone else for it, but it was still mine. Will I continue with it now and renew it, or not continue? So long and short of what I'm saying is, compulsion has to do more with our envisioned consequences and how we think we'll be able to live, survive with them or not. And sometimes it's easier, it seems easier one way than the other. But I don't think that any choice is easy in life.
You've broken down just that situation that I gave you about the baby in three different parts that I'd never seen. And I don't think I did see at the time. And so they felt like there were one choice put in the same. You couldn't have one without the other. That's what it felt at the time. And I guess the sense of compulsion. But, just breaking down, I'm like, I could have been a great father to my daughter without necessarily being married. And, at the time, anyway. It is what it was then.
I have to quickly add that there are also many men who made the same choice under similar circumstances, not the same, but similar circumstances, and they've stuck for years, decades.
And they're happy.
they're happy, or so we think, or so we see.
Hope.
But they have stuck.
Yeah.
And they've seen their children grow, and they've all grown and gone off, and they're left with their wives. I say that just to say both paths
lead to some, because if you're not happy and the children have gone and you're left with your wife, just the two of you, and then you go into the house and
but, but you see, after decades of relating, I don't know, fiddle on the roof, after decades of relating, hopefully there's a way in which you've gotten to come to accept, know each other, and you've gone through all the turmoil, ups and downs, in the ideal fairy tale kind of thing. You've come to see this is the person whom I cherish, whom I have wanted and I have had with me, even though my choice was based on a compulsion.
Yeah.
Now I am really glad I've made this choice decades later. The opposite also is true.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a phrase I hear often nowadays. I choose you every day, Allow me to switch gears a little bit. The dating scene, from what I hear, is a minefield. And then again, I'm just speaking from the conversations that we've had, in the last few episodes, about the guys who haven't gotten married yet, and they're just finding it a challenge to find the right kind of woman. Though I have to say this to all the ladies out there who've asked me for all those numbers for the different guys who are single, I think we're going to have a gig, to put these two together. But what do you feel are the things that have changed in the dating scene now that are making it harder and harder we're having more men getting older before they're married? Does that make sense to you? So where guys would have been married probably in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe thereabouts, I've spoken to several guys turning 40 who are not married yet and are comfortable. Not comfortable, but they are, they're like, I'm not going to chase this anymore. If she comes, she comes. But they're having a hard time. Well, have you experienced this? Have you seen it?
I would have wanted to hear about their experiences, their specific, what is it that they've gone through that leads them to this point. Again, just going to the aspect of the uniqueness. As you asked, what has changed in the dating scene today? The way we relate in the dating scene and the number of people you can be aware of at one go has increased exponentially. The number of people who can be aware of you too. And the things that have become increasingly important to individuals in a relationship. Let me explain. I wanted to say the mobile phone, but really social media. I can know of Mary Jane, Anne, Atieno, Wamboi, Chebet, all of them on one application, just looking.
So, sometimes on the same screen at the same time.
Precisely. And communicating with each one of them. Previously, if you have a chance of meeting someone, you see them once, you do not know the next time you might have an opportunity to see them. And you have to make a decision rather swiftly once you're of, quote unquote, marriageable age. Shall I or shall I not? And you make an approach and you're either accepted or rejected. Today, if I exchange a number, I'm as good as good. You can continue.
The job is halfway done.
You know how the conversation starts with, hey.
Waving emoji.
Goodness. What happened to good morning, good afternoon? How do you do? How are you?
Wait, I'm writing notes. Those are the things I said that I should be saying.
And that hey is to Mary, Anne, Jane, Atieno, Chibet, all at once. And let's see. It's like a lottery. Let's see who. That's on the one hand.
But Jesus said, "I'll make you fishers of men." You know, this is just. It's fishing. Michael has hung his head in shame.
When a fisherman goes out, there are fishermen who just go and, want to catch any fish that might be available. But there are fishermen who know what fish they want to go and catch. And even if they catch many of other kinds of fish, they will let them go until they catch the one they need to catch. Do we know, or do we remain aware of who we want to catch, if I continue with the fish analogy? And I say, do we remain aware? Because as men, we get distracted very easily.
We do.
Yeah. There are the things that we know are important. She's kind, she's very caring, she really feels me. I feel like I can be easy around her. All these things. We know those are important. And we might feel that with Lady A. But then we see Lady B. And we know Lady B gets onto our nerves, does not have a minute of respect for us. Everything is just not right. But when we see her, everything lights up within us. There is another issue that I have tested randomly in different groups. It would seem, and I say this because I do not have conclusive research, but it would seem that left to our own devices as men, there'll always be a competition between two types, quote unquote, of women. There is the woman we know is good. The woman you will present to mom. The woman who, when she stands by you, everything is all right. There'll be no surprises. Let me describe based on one of the little experiments I did. She has a fringe, a nice little ponytail at the back or the sides, held nicely. She's wearing a pleated skirt with a nice blouse, and she sits with her legs crossed, straight back, and knows how to speak or even when to speak. Very proper. And that contrasted with, and by the way, I'm not casting any aspersions on either or, with, and I'm picking this from what I saw, and this was from a younger group, before, they're in their teens, but before it becomes anything major.
Yeah.
And the other lady has colored braids. She's wearing high-top sneakers, jeans. She's chewing gum at that point. And she's seated, slouching in the seat, like doesn't care less what's going on. When are we going to be done with this? And there seems to be a contrast and a competing need for men, for these two different ladies. And it would be great if they were all bundled in one person.
Yeah, I was just about to ask that.
It would be great.
Yeah.
I don't think that women do not have the same desire. But then I don't know.
You guys, I think you've cracked the answer to life. It is so profound what you said. I once read a book as a teenager when we were in church and, talking about dating. And I think it was a Dr. James Dobson book. I think so. I can't remember. But anyway, he described the three things that a man wants in a woman. So he said, we want a queen in the living room, And so the queen in the living room is what we've described as a proper lady, the one who you can present to the president, you can present your mom's back straight, crossed legs, pleated skirt. That's a queen in the living room, and so that's what we want. Someone who, in the public eye, fits this image of Meghan Markle. Mm-hmm. And then we want an economist in the kitchen. And this is the homemaker. This is the person who takes care of the resources that we have, makes it much. I guess the Proverbs 31 woman. The hard worker who uses what we have and makes it, more and much. And then we want what's the right word for a hoe? Okay, in the bedroom, he did use maybe harlot. I don't know, but Michael is cringing. Welcome to Living Truthfully. But one who has no inhibitions in the bedroom.
That works.
That works. She's adventurous and carefree, and I guess what you're describing in Lady B, not the singer. But lady, the alternative, the alter ego, the other side. And so he says these are the three things that a man wants in a woman. And then he goes ahead to say, but what we get is the uninhibited one in the living room. We get a queen in the kitchen and an economist in the bedroom. Why I feel like you've answered life for me is because I wonder, is it wrong for me to want the sense of adventure? Is it wrong for me to want... I feel guilty. I personally feel guilty when I'm making the choice to go the adventure route, to go I want to go out, I want to go hiking, I want to go camping, I want to dance, Like, the word is ratchet. I want to be a little ratchet. And that's one side of me. But I do have the side that, would like to meet the president. And I think I can, clean up nice and clean up good. Is it wrong to want this sense of adventure?
Adventure and ratchet are different.
Is it wrong to want to be ratchet?
Okay, ratchet. I mean, ratchets, Amani.
in its definition.
Brother to brother. Don't be ratchet. I'll use adventure or uninhibited in terms of within the bounds of what would be proper. I do not think at all that what happens when we are courting, though. Seldom do we show the full gamut of what it is, of who we are. We are very quick to hearing, watching, and unfortunately attuning ourselves to what will impress the other party. Now, it may have its function, but later it comes to bite us. Because then you did not present yourself honestly. You presented yourself as if you're this person. So you kept aside, adventurous ratchet, and, you only presented worship leader. And that's what she buys into. And then now you're dying within yourself to allow adventurous to find expression. And when you can't hold it anymore and it finds expression, guess who comes and says, I didn't sign up for this. Who is this person? And then you come and see a psychologist. and we help her see who you are in greater clarity. But you see, this happens both ways. And again, I don't have qualified research, but there is the possibility that because of women's greater, can I say, EQ or ability to sense and adapt, that they adapt much faster to what they think this man likes and present that. And when you end up with that presentation, and then after the wedding, all right, done. You see a different side. You know, things change because now I am your wife.
Yeah, I don't need to adapt anymore.
Mate, you don't need to adapt, or she believes that as a wife, some of these things, adventurous, ratchet, does not cut it now. Now I'm a wife. So you might have been enjoying it together. It might have even been genuine, but she genuinely now changes, and you didn't sign up for that. Yeah.
What do I do? Let me start with the married guy who is trapped between the guy he sold and the adventurous ratchet guy that he feels is trapped inside, that he'd want to be able to experience this adventure with her. And maybe she's also just exactly what you described. She has now turned on wife mode, you know, and there's no room for adventure. What do I do? Do I just accept that it's dead, it's not going to happen, and live life with a sense of regret, or is it
like sacrificial? Yeah. You know, like dying to self, like crucified, like
how Christ loves the church. I see where you're going.
Yes, but also no. I think there's a place for, with God's wisdom, coming to the point of being open and honest with each other. How would that be approached? Are you in your relationship, within your relationship, are you at the point where you can actually have such a discussion by yourselves? If you are, it would be good to start opening some of these aspects. If you're not, then get an intermediary. An intermediary in the shape and form of, I do not know, a trusted older person. Some people might choose to go to a spiritual leader. Others might choose to go to a professional who can have a seat with both and just reflect and soundboard what each is saying. And I say this because things are said, people say things, but we don't hear what they're saying, especially
things,
yes. Especially when you've been in a marriage. You always have a color that you put to what they're saying based on things they've done and said in the past.
Yes.
But in this particular situation, they might be saying something that you need to hear for what it is worth at that point. So I'd say openness and honesty might be necessary. And what is the cost of not being honest and open? I dare say that the pressure increases. The risks outside of the marriage, or the temptations outside of the marriage, are also increasing because, you know, there's an office function and you go somewhere and it's adventurous.
Misadventure lives there.
Yeah. And you really connect with this person, but it's only in one aspect that you connect with them, not the entirety of, you know, mother, companion, and just this one aspect.
This one that's missing.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, we really do that. The one thing that's missing, we make it so large compared to everything else that is present. But if it's important to you, it is important to you. And if it's really, really important, then it's worth bringing on the table, to the table and discussing.
We had a couple friend that would do the soundboard thing for us. And maybe I just want to throw it in there as an option. And what would happen is, you know, my wife at the time would say what she wanted to say, and then my friend's wife would say it back to me, and she'd be the soundboard, you know, and so that I sort of hear twice what is being said. And then I'd do the same. So I'd say what I needed to say, and my boy would now say it to her. And that made for a really good, you know, sounding board, and would do the same for them as well. So just wanted to throw in that there. So, but how can I be this honest and open at the beginning? Like before I make the vow for till death do us part, so that I'm not just showing you Amani's marketing manager who really knows what he's doing, and just showing you the good side, the side that fits the husband profile.
I don't know.
Wow.
Next episode?
Maybe, perhaps.
There are people who we should listen to when we're not prepared to listen. We're not predisposed to be taking the notes of the things they're saying. And not necessarily when they're talking to us, but when they're talking around us. So we don't like generally meeting the parents. And it's been made a big thing when you meet the parents. And many times by the time you're meeting the parents, it's as good as a commitment has been made. Yet, her family, his family, when you see them in that environment as they talk and relate, and those friends who you're not yet the person, but you've been allowed into that space, there are telltale signs. There are things that you should pick. You know, Michael can never ... Take note. These are people who have grown up with Michael. They have watched. And even if Michael says, no, I am a very... If they say the opposite, then that is a matter. That is something. Maybe Michael aspires to. Maybe Michael has been trying many years, but they have seen.
But
that's how it shows itself, you know. Jerry would never, doesn't even know how to fry an egg. I mean, if your aspiration is a queen, what is it in the kitchen?
An economist in the kitchen. But
an economist?
For me, mine is just biryani in the kitchen.
Biryani.
Yeah, that's mine. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. So we don't listen. And maybe because we're caught up in this infatuation of the moment, or we don't have opportunity to be in the environments where we can listen. Can these be created? I think they can be created. I mean, don't go visit her home alone. Then just go when there's a larger function of some sort, and I don't know.
come with your brother or sister or something. Like come 2 of you, and
I don't know how you do it, but the most helpful environments are where people can give you some feedback that you're not asking for, and you're not yet the person for them to join in the, we need to present our brother, our sister
in a particular way.
Yeah.
Dude, that is so wise.
Thank God.
It is so wise. Relationships are in isolation a lot. And we do this thing, our thing first. And then later, when we've already established some things, that's when we start allowing our friends in. And what you're saying is the opposite, is get into those spaces with their friends and with their, when you're considering the person, get into those spaces with their friends and families, and use those spaces to get to know who this person is. It's so wise, man. I feel like I'm meeting Michael version maybe 3.0. You know, I think I've seen several versions of you, and I can't wait to see what this turns out to be. But I really like this guy that I've met today. I really like this guy. He's doing namaste or something close. Thank you, Michael Oyier. God bless you. Keep your head up.
Amani.
Please, guys, go see Michael. Go see Michael.
Or any other good psychologist out there.
Or any other good psychologist down there that Michael recommends. Thank you.
Thank you for trusting me.
I don't know how you define wisdom, but today, wisdom for me is a liberated perspective. What Michael gave us is a liberated perspective. Your situation is only as real as the way you look at it. Your situation is only as real as the perspective you see it from. But I dare challenge you to look for another one. I dare challenge you to look for a liberated perspective. One that offers you freedom. One that offers you options. One that helps you see what you may be blind to. As you live your own journey of living truthfully, wherever it is that you're looking for authenticity, dig deep as you look for liberation. And I pray for your freedom. I pray that your perspective shifts and that you're able to see all the possibilities that come from just where you are today. I can't wait to see you next week as we continue living truthfully.